Welcome to the Early Years Roundtable hosted by Realise. Today I am joined by an array of guests and we're going to be talking all about the power of connection and enhancing interactions in early years. I'm Laura Hodges, the Early Years expert here at Realise.
And I am Cheryl Warren. I am the Director of Aperion Training.
And I'm Claire Stead, and I help you build your baby's brains and make them fabulous in the first 1,000 days of life.
And I am Selina Jones, and I'm a Deputy Manager at Shooting Stars Nurseries.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm hoping we're going to cover some really exciting things because for me, when we're talking about interactions with children, we need to think about being inclusive, authentic and meaningful. So let's start. Cheryl, some of the experiences you've had, why is interaction so important in the early years?
Well, for me, with the work that I do, I focus on how our early years educators and our early years settings can understand, support, guide our amazing, unique neurodivergent children. So I very much have that focus on those children. I very much have an ethos around, yes, our children are different, but different is not deficit. And I think we're quick to kind of see and think about what our children are unable to do. Mm-hmm. I talk about connection with our children, with what they can do.
Yeah.
And connection certainly with our children who are processing the world very, very differently. Our neurodivergent children living in a neurotypical world, mm-hmm. Where things don't always make sense. Connection is more required than anywhere else, I believe. Connection with our children is about understanding who they are, meeting them where they are, to support children to thrive, not just survive in our early years spaces. So connection is understanding who they are, understanding their strengths alongside their challenges, because obviously we're there to support those too. But connection is supporting them, their unique self, so that they can be their true, authentic self in very much that neurodiversity affirming way. Our children, there's that kind of thought that with neurodivergent children, they want to be by themselves. They're quite isolated. Maybe they don't want to connect with other people because they struggle with empathy, and that's just not the case at all. Our children want to connect. They just show connection in very, very different ways. So it's understanding who our children are, what they're looking for, how they're seeking connection, and supporting them with those differences. Because sometimes the way that they want to connect is through a behaviour that maybe be from the outside mm-hmm. be seen as a challenge or inappropriate. Yeah. A child going over to another group of children who are engaged really deeply in some block play and laughing and connecting together, and our child who may be pre-verbal, neurodivergent, maybe on the pathway to a diagnosis, sees that out of the corner of their eye or hears that and think, and goes over and pushes the blocks over. Mm-hmm. And then everybody kind of goes to, shouldn't have done that, and that's not nice, and blah, blah, blah. Whereas actually, that's their way to go and show, I want to play with you, I want to engage with you. So it's understanding that connection for me looks different, mm-hmm. maybe for our neurodivergent children, but understanding what that looks like and meeting them where they are to support them to connect. And it's not about a lack of want. Sometimes it's just that skills gap. Yeah. And our job is to support that skills gap for our children. Connection is key.
Absolutely. And I think you've covered so much, we could probably wrap up now. But, there's a lot more I want to talk about. And you mentioned highlighting strength. Mm-hmm. And that is something I'm really passionate about. And I don't know about you guys when we get along to you to share some comments there. But in early years, we're really quick to say they're not yet doing this and they're not yet doing that. But think of all the wonderful things that they can do and that's succeeding with. You talk about the first 1,000 days. Claire, what can we do in those days?
So I think there's a couple of things here that I want to pick up on what Cheryl said.
Yeah.
So first up, connection starts with the parent. And I think the parents... I'm an ex-primary school teacher, and, the realisation that you actually have to talk to parents is a really terrifying, hideous thing. But when you actually start looking at what we are doing to support our parents, we aren't. And therefore, that becomes a space where a sense of judgment develops, and there's sort of a wall becomes the space between them and us. They're telling me to do stuff. My child's not doing this, and that can't do attitude. Whereas if we're now really lucky because our babies are coming in earlier and earlier, and therefore our parents are coming in very often when they're still pregnant. So building that connection from the beginning and bringing them into this partnership of transformation and support and the development journey that this child is going to take, I think is really, really fundamental. And also when we start looking at what development journey is this child on, we stop looking at what can't they do? We start looking at, oh my goodness, this child is fantastic at doing this. Maybe they haven't got that yet, but it's a yet rather than a can't. Yeah. And I think when we start bringing it in start from the parents, start with a connection at that space, we're already building trust, and trust is an enormous part of this connectivity. And if we get the trust in the beginning, it kind of becomes a very easy journey, because then babies know that when the parents are handing over their baby, the parents feel supported and trust, that there's trust there. And so the baby has that sense of safety, and then that connection is already being built and nurtured, and the journey becomes much, much easier. Do you find that in your nursery?
Yes, so I echo that really, as parent partnership is really important, and at Shooting Stars it's part of our 5-star pedagogy, working in partnership with parents. And it is very much so on the basis of when they first enter the setting and when they're settling with us. It's really one of our priorities, and also throughout their journey across the nursery, but also for expecting parents as well. It is that babies are entering earlier as well. So having that connection from the first step of even a show around the nursery and really getting to know the parents and adapting the setting in those ways to further enhance it. So, for example, we had a survey and we found that many children actually lived in flats without a garden. So we enhanced our garden space to meet those needs. And that's where we looked at where they were meeting their milestones. And it might be that we need to really look at really adding depth into our relationship and looking that bit further to create an insight of the bigger picture. So then by enhancing our garden space and working alongside those parents and signposting different things that would benefit the children, we've seen then an enhancement within their physical development.
Perfect. That's wonderful. You mentioned about the attention to detail and building that relationship, and that's something I want to pull on for us all to have a bit of a conversation about. Something that I find when I'm supporting in settings, I'm really curious to explore further, is always being present and giving meaningful connection and interaction, because we're very good at the beginning. We build those relationships, we get that trust, right? We think about all the different needs that we might need to facilitate for that child to help them be their best. And then time kind of goes on and it just gets a little bit mundane. So how can we think about being really present in those moments and provide meaningful learning for those children through interaction?
It's that holding space, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we're in a... For me, we're in a time where when we're writing our observations, when we're adding it, whether written or on an online platform or whatever it is that anybody's using, we're always thinking about next steps.
Yeah.
What's the next step we need to support the child with, rather than what about the now?
Yeah.
Let's be in the now and in the present. And I think that works with our families too. It's in order to support our children to thrive, we have to support the whole unit to thrive. And, we know that parents are dropping off, rushing off to work, or, parents that certainly from when we're looking at neurodivergent children, it's that sometimes there can be a barrier because they're not ready to have that conversation yet. So it's about holding space with the family. I hear quite often, we can't support this child because the parents are in denial or they're not willing to have the conversation. Sometimes, just have a conversation with them about something other than their children.
Yeah.
Just say, I hear you were going to that, that gig at the weekend. I've got some biscuits in the office. come and have a chat. Let's go and have a cup of tea. Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Talk about something other than what's happening with the children to, again, build that trust, build that connection.
It's building relationships, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And actually, as humans, meeting as humans. And I think that's so important, particularly as a neurodivergent parent of a neurodivergent child. You're very often the one that stands alone in the playground, and you're not invited to the parties and all the rest of it. So I do think that's really, really important. But also for our babies, I think it's really important that we stop trying to deliver Halloween and Easter to our babies. Why don't we just actually take the daily routines? Because a baby room, let's face it, is stuffed full of routines. So why don't we make the routines the curriculum and make that slow everything down? And what if I take 15 minutes with this baby to change its nappy? But that 15 minutes is is 15 beautiful minutes of connection.
Absolutely.
Because in that connection, what you've done is you've made the brain feel safe. And when the brain feels safe, you can then get through into the thinking brain to be able to enable development and learning to actually happen. And that connection then starts building those synaptic connections that will enable bigger, better, brilliant brains to form, which is what we want for our babies.
I talk about trustful play.
Yeah.
And again, it's that meeting our children right where they are and be led by the child. Quite often it's, I'll be with you, I can be here for a couple of minutes and then I've got to go and get ready for, the lunch breaks, or I've got to go and do this, or we've got to stop now because we've got to tidy up. We've got to transition to the next bit. Just like you say, slow down. Just be in that moment. Be present with that child for as long as that child wants you to be present with them.
And actually that's where teamwork comes in.
Absolutely.
Because if I've got if I'm in ratio and I've got my number of children that I need to be in charge of, and I'm only focused on my children, I'm in my group doing my thing. But if as a team we see this group of children and over there you're having this beautiful moment with a nappy and a real connection moment, surely it's my role to scoop and bring everybody into the fold. So now as a team we work as a group for the whole good, and that enables you to take as long as that connection requires in order to be able to just have that. That's where the sparkly moments are, isn't it? In those connected moments.
I suppose as well, going back to connection as well, within a setting, it's almost that the connection between all members are important. So that's connecting with the children, with the staff team and the parents and any outside agencies that you may work with. And that's where it all falls down to seeing the bigger picture and just being extra vigilant in everything you do and having that teamwork where you can actually really tune into the children and exactly what they need, and everything else falls into place.
Tuning in and that time, and just that, and like you say, that understanding of the bigger picture, rather than she's not, we've got to tidy up. Why is she not helping to tidy up? Why is she? Why? Okay. I can see what's going on here. I can see how invested that member of staff is, how engaged those children are in that moment. I'm not going to go and interrupt that. Allow that to be again being present and in that moment.
I think why is a really powerful word. I mean, when you ask why is that baby doing that? Why aren't they doing that? Or why is that person not coming to help to tidy up? Why is, I don't know, Jane sad today and grumpy? Why?
It's being curious, isn't it?
Curious with empathy.
Absolutely.
And engagement and connection.
Not why.
Look, connection, we're back to it.
Not why as in, why.
No.
Why?
Curious.
I wonder
also, why and what, I suppose. What are they learning? What are they gaining? What am I giving? What are they receiving? They're all really powerful things to start questioning. It's that questioning. Questioning in a connected way. Look at us.
Always bringing it back.
Shall I bring it back?
So these are really wonderful conversations. I'm just sat here gleaming, I don't know what to say next. But it's easy for us to sit here and have these great conversations. What is it that maybe presents challenge or stops us, having those meaningful interactions and giving that time and space. You mentioned getting rid of Halloween and things like that. I can't love that more. Tokenistic is, ugh. So what can we do with our interactions that they're not tokenistic? Because sometimes we see that across all children, you know, like you were saying, I'll be with you in just a minute, or, oh, I'll do this. Yeah, it's done now. Move on, because you've ticked the box. What can we do differently?
I do think we need to hold our hands up and say none of us are perfect, and we're not looking for perfection. Yeah. And if you have one amazing interaction with every child that you care for in a day, wow, you know what? You crackerjack, you've done it. And that's what's so important, I think. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be shooting for the stars, because we really should be. Mm-hmm. But if we can definitely say, we know deep in our heart we had a magical, sparkly moment with somebody every single day, and that includes our colleagues and our managers and our, I don't know, whoever comes in, the person that does the bins or whatever it is, you make those connections every day. And if you own that, that's your responsibility. No one can take that away from you. And it doesn't matter how much you earn or what grade you are, or what, you know, that you're lower or higher than somebody else. If that's your responsibility and you take that on every day, that's a massive ownership. And the impact you will have as a professional will be massive by doing that.
Again, I think it's the why and what's important.
Yeah.
Why did you get into early years in the first place? I know why I got into early years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for the money, and it wasn't for, you know, the kind of recognition for the job that we do. But it was the why did I get into it in the first place? Yeah. And I think sometimes the mundane just takes over.
Yeah.
There's an amazing song out at the moment by a guy called Alex Warren called Ordinary, and he talks about making the mundane a masterpiece.
Yeah. Now,
he's talking about a wonderful relationship with whoever, but I think we can do that with our children. Make the mundane the nappy change, the lunch. Sometimes lunch times we're kind of, oh, we've got to do this because that person needs to go on their lunch break, and then we've got to get these ones off to sleep, and then we've got to do it. We've got to. No, what we've got to do at the moment is just be and provide. Like you say, if we've got families who are not necessarily experiencing that family time, meal times together, and cultural capital, this is this opportunity to have the table set up beautifully and those wonderful conversations around the table, just reflecting on the morning or reflecting what we can see out the window, and, you know, all of those different things. It's being, you know, we talk about in the moment planning, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, in the moment,
be there. Enjoy the moment.
But I think it is making the mundane a masterpiece, and the impact that those seemingly mundane moments can have on the impact of our children. You know, with our neurodivergent children, quite often our children can become the lost and forgotten ones because they play differently, they engage differently, they interact differently. And sometimes our teams don't have the skills or the experience or the training to understand how to meet that child where they are. So that child gets lost and forgotten because, oh, they're not dysregulated at the minute, they're over there. Okay, we won't go and rock the boat because we've, you know, do something else. But again, that engagement, just be with them. And it might seem hard work, it might seem like a chore, the nappy change, the, you know, whatever, that transition, whatever it might be. But there's magic in those moments. And sometimes what those children remember, and the impact that your connection can have with that child who's, you know, pre-verbal, playing on their own, you go and meet them where they are, you go and join them in their space. You will have an impact. You may not see it in their early years, but you will make that impact.
Well, how do you find it in your nursery?
So I agree, and it is all about tuning into the children and actually asking those questions and thinking outside the box and being quite methodical in things you do and thinking about the exact impact that will have on the children and how they feel and their interactions and how they connect with others as well. And role modelling is a big part of that too. And I think that us being, you know, professionally curious and, you know, questioning things and not in the way of why are we doing this, as in what is the impact of this, you know, what is the intent between things that we do, and what are we actually trying to achieve for our children, and how we can all move forward in a way that it's not about their next steps. Going back to what we said earlier, it's not about their next steps. It's about celebrating what they are achieving right now and staying currently in the moment. And then when they are ready, they will then move on to those next steps. And it's all about, I think sometimes things can be quite rushed and too much forward thinking. And I think that's across most settings, and the way the planning is in some settings too. And that's why I think, child-led approaches are so important. And also with communicating with the team to, widen the horizons of opportunities. And strong teamwork as well would help with that connection. But also I do think that at the moment there is a shying away from the neurodivergent children, as if yes, to leave, that's okay, that they're regulated, that's fine, but actually that would be a perfect opportunity to have that one-to-one support and help them achieve something.
So we've covered a lot of conversation around the importance of connection, the interaction. I just kind of wanted to share a little stat with you. It's a bit outdated, but it resonates a lot with me. That average adult will have 30,000 interactions in one day. Now you think about how many children we work with, how big our staff teams might be. That's not the average, is it? We're very close in the work that we do. And I always see that as 30,000 opportunities to have a meaningful connection. We're not going to get it right all the time, like you say, Claire. We're never the finished article, by no means. Nobody's perfect. But if we maybe step back and just think, I've got an opportunity here, let's not let it go by. What do you think about that? It's a bit of a big...
Can I jump straight in on this one?
I could feel you.
Because if we think about what's happening in the first 1,000 days, where we're building babies' brains, during that period of time, at times, there are over 1 million synapse connections. That's the connections inside the brain that make the brains bigger, better, and stronger. 1 million synapse connections being created every second. And if we use those, if those connections get used and repeatedly used, they go stronger. If we don't use them, they get pruned. If you then add that to what you've just said, if the question is, what happens if we don't use them?
That's a really big question.
And that's a really big question. And I'm going to put something else in there, and that is that children's development at 22 months is an excellent predictor of academic outcomes at 26 years old. So by the time our babies are leaving their toddlers' rooms, they're on a trajectory of academic success. That doesn't mean necessarily that it's development, but it's a journey. What have we done in our connections? Because connections enable brains to grow. If we've made babies feel safe, if we've made parents feel safe, if we've made our colleagues feel safe and connected, wow, we've done amazing things.
And I think that goes back to just the importance of our job. Sometimes I think we still, our job is the precursor to school. We're getting them ready for school. We've got to, we don't really think about the early years. I was having a conversation with a teacher a little while ago, and they said, actually, I don't really know anything about early years. I kind of, it almost feels like they just arrive ready for us at 5. That kind of...
Packed and off, ready to go.
When their bags packed and off we go. It's that we are those brain builders. We are building those foundations. And what we do every day, every minute, every second is important. It goes back to the routine and making that important, because that's where the connections are made. It goes back to those mundane kind of things we're doing day in. It's not about, the extracurricular that we're offering or the trips we go on. Those things are wonderful. But it's what you're doing at, 2:10 on a Tuesday afternoon that actually can have...
What are you doing when the lights aren't on and no one's watching?
When the iPads aren't screening around.
Utterly key.
Well, we could talk all afternoon, I think, but we've covered so many wonderful topics. I just really want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.